Prop 8, remember this, was California ballot proposition, a state constitutional amendment intended to ban same-sex marriage. It passed California November 2008, and it was later overturned by the Supreme Court. Then in 2013, gay marriages resumed, and it was then California Attorney General Kamala Harris who helped our next two guests, Paul Katami and Jeff Zarrillo, make their dream come true. Look at this one.
That was Chris and Sandy in line.
We're getting a directive from our director that we cannot do anything until we hear from the state.
Hi, this is Dean.
You must start the marriages immediately.
All right, I will take that as our notice and license them.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. Have a good day and enjoy it. It's going to be fun.
Wow. 10 years ago this week, Paul and Jeff were married at LA City Hall by then Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Great to see you both. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
It's been too long. It's good to see you as well.
We did lots of interviews back then.
Right.
Can you take us back to that moment, what that moment felt like?
Well, we had been at a registrar before, and we had been denied a marriage license. So to go back after our lawsuit was settled, also be denied in that moment felt devastating, because here we are, had gone through 5 years of this lawsuit. And in that moment when Kamala Harris made that phone call, it almost felt like a huge weight was lifted. And we also had to make a decision to get married. Even after all of this fighting, we still had to take a private moment. That's exactly right.
Imagine?
Like, you still want to do this. Yeah. But it was a beautiful moment, because it marked the end of our particular part of a journey that had taken decades and countless people to make happen.
And it was a really hard fight. I mean, I remember being with you guys at the Supreme Court in Washington, and there was a lot of support there, but there was also a lot of hate there, too, from people that were protesting, and you had to deal with that.
There was hate throughout the whole process, and we just used that as motivation. You know, we looked at each other every day and said we would use any type of negativity and we would turn it into a positive and make the whole experience as positive as it could be. Because at the end of the day, the goal for us was to be able to, profess our love for one another in front of our family and friends. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that day. We ended up not being able to have our family and friends with us, but what an incredible moment for us to be able to share together.
Yeah, and there were so many jokes back then. I just want to be as unhappy as everybody else in a marriage. What's it like being married 10 years in? How is it going?
Be honest.
I mean, it's been fantastic. I mean, ultimately, being able to have access to something that as you grew up, you cope with feeling you're never going to have. I think we put a lot more thought and energy into making sure that during the fight and after the fight that we would make sure our marriage was as solid as possible. So the last 10 years have been great. Yeah. We've maintained our relationship. We stayed friends with a lot of people that were involved with the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And honestly, marriage didn't change our day-to-day. We were already effectively married, but it did offer us the protections that we were prohibited. And so that makes all the difference.
And we're seeing, a fight in the Supreme Court today over this issue. We see a lot of fights around the country in the trans community that they're dealing with right now. What do you think are the lessons that those folks can learn from what you guys did that they can build on?
What's interesting is when we filed our lawsuit, there was a lot of organizations within our own community that didn't think it was the right time, that there wasn't the right makeup of the court. You look at the court today, God knows where we would be right now as a community. But I think if anybody is wanting to fight for what they believe in, they need to understand that if you are on the right side of history and you're on the right side of the law, now is always the right time to fight.
Mm-hmm. Every effort makes a difference. Every effort. Even in the face of the most resistance. You would hope that progress would equal less resistance, but we found that resistance is always going to be there. So every effort makes a difference.
Yeah, and these are some pictures that I took back then. Gavin Newsom was out there in Washington with us, and that was what it was like reporting behind the scenes there. It was really an extraordinary experience, but also, a lesson in the end about the power of love, and to feel the love from all the people there was really, I think, for me, one of the most profound experiences of my career reporting. And it was such a privilege to meet both of you, and it's great to see how well you're doing all these years later.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you having us. You make a really good point about love. It's enduring, And that's where that hashtag comes from. Love Wins really does have that enduring quality. So if you lean into the truth, lean into your authenticity, give a safe space for people to fight for what they believe in, who they are, it makes this country really define itself the way it's meant to be.
Well, what a perfect way to end Pride Month. Paul and Jeff, thank you for all you've done to help so many people.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. All right, coming up.